I'm using a throwaway for this. I'm a 33-year-old woman. When I was 24, my brother-in-law assaulted me during a family trip. He was drunk, as always. At that point, I had just moved out from my parents' house to a small town about an hour away. I had only been dating my now husband for 4 months. I didn't tell anyone for 8 years. I didn't know how to process it. For a long time, I couldn't even label it as assault. I thought I was just being paranoid, or overreacting, or confused. But I developed panic attacks, night terrors, and this overwhelming anxiety whenever I visited home. It wasn't until I started therapy that I even connected the dots. When I finally told my husband what had happened, he didn't say much, just listened. But suddenly my behavior made more sense to him too. Why I froze up during family gatherings, why I couldn't sleep after visits, why I always asked if he, the brother-in-law, would be there. A year ago, I sat my parents down and told them everything. My dad was quiet, like dead quiet. My mom tried to act like she was supportive, but immediately jumped to, "Why didn't you tell us?" And, "You've always been sensitive," then followed up with weird jokes about how crazy our childhood was. I told them I wasn't joking. I told them I needed their help, just a heads up if he'd be around during a visit. My dad didn't say much after that. My mom dismissed it. She literally said, "You shouldn't let that stop you from visiting your family." She made it sound like I was being dramatic. In the year since, they haven't brought it up once. When I show up and he's there, my dad sticks close to me. He'll stand nearby, step in if my brother-in-law talks to me. But my mom? She gives him more to drink. She sets out an extra plate like she wants him there. I stopped going as often. My relationship with my sister, his wife, has always been distant. But since then, it's basically non-existent. She doesn't know what happened. Still sees me as the flaky aunt who doesn't spend enough time with her kids. A few years back, my mom told everyone that I'd be hosting Thanksgiving going forward. Except she never let that happen. Every year she'd offer to host again. This year, I finally said no. I told her I wouldn't come. I explained that I felt safer in my own home, that I didn't trust him not to show up, that I might finally be ready to confront him if he did, but I couldn't do that in someone else's house. I got emotional. She told me not to cry. Literally said, "Don't start crying." So I lost it. Told her I was going to cry. Told her I had every right to speak about what happened to me even if it made her uncomfortable. She didn't take that well. She deflected, brought up completely unrelated issues from years ago. I hung up on her. The next day, I messaged my brother-in-law. I told him I remembered everything. That he might have been too drunk, but I wasn't. I listed out everything he did. He said he sort of remembered that night, but wasn't sure. I told him I wasn't here to destroy his life, or my sister's, but that he needed to get his act together. I told him to stop drinking and be a better father and husband. He didn't respond after that. Later that week, my mom told my sister we had a fight. Left out the important parts, obviously. Told her I was being dramatic about Thanksgiving. My sister sent me a long text calling me selfish, saying I was rude to my mother, that I didn't care about being part of the family, that I barely knew her kids. So I sent a screenshot of that text to my brother-in-law, just so he'd see what I was going through because of him. At that point, I started seriously considering telling my sister the truth. I had been protecting her for almost a decade, but she thought I was just some cold, distant relative who didn't care. Meanwhile, I've been having panic attacks for years. I texted my dad and asked to talk without my mom around. Told him what my mom had said, how she was still trying to force me into situations with my brother-in-law. He didn't really react. Said he was hurt that I hung up on my mom. When I brought up telling my sister the truth, he accused me of trying to hurt the family out of spite. I told him again what happened, that I wasn't being vindictive, that I had been carrying this alone for too long. Eventually, he said my sister was at their house that night and that he'd try to get her alone. Told me to wait for a text. When he finally texted me, "Go ahead," I called her. I asked her not to interrupt. She agreed. I told her everything. She broke down crying. The first thing she said was, "You never have to see him again. He's not welcome here or at Mom and Dad's." She asked if he was drunk. I said yes. She said it didn't matter. I reminded her it happened during that family trip to our grandparents. She didn't even remember going on that trip at first. I walked her through it. Then she told me something I didn't know. He had been assaulted himself as a kid by an aunt with a drinking problem. That was a lot to process. She asked about the call I had with him. I told her what he said, that he didn't fully remember, but didn't deny it either, that he zoned out when drunk. She said she doesn't let him drink in the house anymore. Then she got angry, not at me, at him. She kept saying, "I'm your big sister. I was supposed to protect you." She told me she had always been angry at me for not being around. Now she understood why. She said that if I had told her at the time, she probably would have left him. But now they have kids, and leaving isn't that simple. I told her I didn't have the tools back then, that until a year ago I couldn't even say the words out loud. I told her I'm trying to protect myself, and that's why I keep my distance. She just cried, and for the first time in years, it felt like someone in my family actually listened. I don't know what'll happen next, but at least the secret isn't just mine anymore. Next story. I, 26F, have been married to my husband, 25M, for almost 2 years. We have a 6-month-old baby. He's undocumented, and I've been working part-time to help cover the legal costs of his residency process. The lawyer said it would take maybe 2 years max to get his papers. But that's all off now because I'm divorcing him. My daily routine used to look like this. I'd wake up 2 hours before him to pack his lunch, prep his breakfast, coffee, clothes, everything. He'd get up, eat, dress, and be out in 30 minutes. I packed things like grilled chicken and salad, wraps, etc. Healthy food. I've done this since we moved in together over 3 years ago. Recently, he started saying he was still hungry after lunch, so I began adding dinner leftovers, even if that meant skipping my own lunch or running late to work. I'm breastfeeding too, so skipping meals wasn't ideal. One day, I found a second fork in his lunchbox, one I didn't pack. He said he found it in the kitchen at work and brought it home. I felt something was off, but I told myself I was just being insecure because I'd just had a baby. A few days later, I decided to visit his job during his lunch break to surprise him and let him see the baby. That's when I saw it. The coworker he told me was no longer working there. The one he swore he deleted off social media, the one I caught him being overly friendly with, was still working there. Not only that, she was eating the lunch I made from scratch that morning. He was eating the leftovers I added to cover his hunger. I didn't say anything. I took photos of them eating and laughing together. Then I went home, packed my things, grabbed the baby and the essentials, and went to my sister's house. I showed her and my brother-in-law everything, messages, screenshots, and the pictures. I usually text him during the day, but I didn't that day. He started messaging, asking if I was okay. I ignored him. He came home an hour earlier than usual, which made me question his work hours too, and saw the house empty. I left a letter stating he had 7 days to leave. I also told him he could see the baby by arranging it through my mom. I left the photos under the letter. That night, I contacted the lawyer and told him we wouldn't be moving forward with the residency case. I asked if the money I paid could be applied to a divorce case instead, but due to some clause, we lost that money. My soon-to-be ex panicked when he found out. Without residency, he now has to choose: stay in the U.S. and never see his parents again, or go back home and never see his daughter again. My sister said I should stay married and just not file for divorce so he can't marry someone else and get papers through them. But I'm not doing that. I want out. Later, I asked him why he did it. He said he didn't mean to hurt me, that he loved us, but the coworker made him feel special. He said life with bills, the baby, and my emotional state was getting boring, and she helped distract him. He admitted he had messed up and that he felt like he'd won the lottery with me and lost it. He said the coworker didn't even care about him. Apparently she sleeps with a lot of guys at work, and he realized he was just one of many. He now lives in someone's trailer. He called me again the next morning, apologizing again. He said he missed the baby and cried when he got home. He said he used to feel tired coming home to us because I'd leave food out for him and go to work, and the baby would be excited to see him. That routine drained him. He said it was all repetitive, the same meals, the same schedule. That was when I knew I was done. What I saw as a stable life, he saw as a burden. I told him again he could visit the baby at my mom's while I'm at work, and I hung up. Then things got worse. His affair partner found my address. She showed up outside my house. Apparently, she was engaged and in the process of getting her own residency through her fiancé. Somehow, he found out about her cheating, and she blamed me. She threatened to slash my tires and ruin my life like I ruined hers. That afternoon, someone punctured one of my tires and wrote "homewrecker" on my front bay window. I also started getting spam calls and texts from random numbers. I called the cops, but by the time they showed up, she was gone. They told me unless they catch her in the act, there's nothing they can do. My mom and stepdad offered to install cameras around my house and are now keeping my car at their place. They want me to move in, but I don't want to leave my house in case she damages it while I'm away. So far, all I've gotten is a patrol car that passes by the neighborhood once in a while. I don't know who her fiancé is, and I've got no time to figure it out. I'm just trying to get through each day now. Next story. I'm 18F. My family pretty much neglected me my entire life, so I cut them off and ran away on my 18th birthday. Here's what happened. Growing up, I was never really wanted by my dad. He always made it clear he wanted a son. My mom, on the other hand, thought I wasn't girly enough. It was always like I just didn't fit the mold they wanted. Things got worse when my younger brother was born when I was 6. That was the point where they just kind of stopped paying attention to me altogether. Anything I did was brushed off. I was into drawing, and anytime I showed my parents something I made, they just rolled their eyes or told me to do something useful. Meanwhile, my brother could bring home a participation ribbon, and they'd celebrate it like he won the Nobel Prize. My mom constantly compared me to my cousin. Let's call her Jessica, 20F. Jessica was everything my mom wanted in a daughter. Super feminine, top of her class, always dressed up. The worst part? Our birthdays are one day apart. Every year my family would throw a joint party for us, but it wasn't really for us. It was for her. They always used one cake, and most of the time, my name wasn't even on it. Sometimes they'd add it at the last second in a different color like it was an afterthought. The decorations? All her style. The games? Her choice. The gifts? 90% for her. I'd usually end up with a Walmart gift card while she got electronics, clothes, even a puppy once. To be clear, Jessica was never mean to me. In fact, she tried to make me feel included. She'd share her gifts and talk to me during the parties. But the damage from my family was already done. Anyway, this year was supposed to be different. It was my 18th birthday, and my mom promised me my own cake. I asked for an Oreo ice cream cake, my favorite. I didn't get my hopes up, but part of me thought maybe things would finally go right. The party was at my aunt's house. Everyone was there. Grandparents, cousins, family, friends. My uncle gathered everyone to sing, and Jessica and I stood by the cake. Except there was only one cake, a strawberry cheesecake with only her name on it. When the singing ended and she blew out the candles, I asked about my cake. My mom said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You don't need the extra sugar." That's when I snapped. I yelled. I didn't care anymore. I told them all off, about the years of being ignored, the birthdays where I felt invisible, the way they made me feel like a placeholder in my own life. Jessica actually backed me up. So did my little brother. They both said it wasn't fair how I was always treated. My uncle tried to shut me up, told me to sit down and stop making a scene. I told him to go to hell and said I never wanted to see any of them again. I left. Jessica and my brother came after me. I ended up crashing at Jessica's apartment. A few days later, we both agreed to go no contact with everyone. I blocked every single one of them. Jessica let me stay with her while I looked for work. I got a part-time job after about 3 weeks. Not glamorous, but enough to pay some bills. I also started online classes. It wasn't easy, but for once, I felt like I had some control. My family didn't take it well. They bombarded me with messages, calling me ungrateful, selfish, immature. Jessica got heat from them too, which only made her more committed to staying out of their orbit. Around October, I was ready to move into my own place. Jessica mentioned this to a family friend who apparently passed the info to my mom. That's how she ended up messaging me from a burner Instagram account, asking to meet. It had been 4 months since I last saw her. I agreed to meet at a neutral spot, but only if Jessica came with me. We met at a local diner. My mom looked rough, like she hadn't been sleeping or eating right. She tried to hug me, but I said no. She didn't push it. We talked. She apologized. She said she wanted to start fresh. I told her no. I said it was too late, and that I couldn't pretend the last 15 years didn't happen. She seemed to accept it. She paid for our meal and left without making a scene. That was about a month ago. Now I live halfway across the country in a small apartment. I still work at a diner. Not the dream job, but it pays the rent. I haven't spoken to my parents or extended family since that meetup, and I don't plan to. Jessica and my brother are still in touch with me. We talk regularly. Things are quiet now, which is new for me. I'm thinking about getting a dog. This isn't some dramatic redemption story. Nobody clapped. My family didn't suddenly realize how wrong they were. But I'm okay with that. I'm not looking for closure anymore. Just peace. Next story. So, this happened a few months back, but I wanted to write it out now that everything's settled. I was with Fran for 2.5 years. Things were solid, or at least I thought they were. We didn't live together, but I was planning to ask her to move in. Then she started acting off. Not distant like she wanted to break up, just quieter, distracted. I figured I'd wait it out and see if anything came up. That Friday night, it did. We were having dinner at my place. Out of nowhere, she says she wants to talk. I assumed she was going to say she had a bad week or maybe wanted space. Nope. She asked for an open relationship. She had this whole pitch ready, like she practiced it. Talked about how it could bring us closer, explore new sides of ourselves, all the usual stuff. I let her talk, then asked the obvious. Do you already have someone in mind? She hesitated just enough. Then she said yes. That was it for me. I got up, walked into the bedroom, grabbed one of my gym bags, packed all her stuff into it and handed it to her, told her to leave the spare key on the table. We were done. No shouting, no drama. I sat back down on the couch and turned on the TV. She stood there like she didn't know what just happened. Looked like she was about to cry, but before she could say anything, I told her we weren't talking about it, and she should just go. After she left, I finally broke down. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed it out. My phone blew up all night. Friends on both sides texting me like I overreacted. I didn't answer any of them that weekend. Update. The talk we met up the following Friday at our usual coffee spot. I almost didn't go. She looked rough, eyes red, clearly crying before she got there. I told her before she started talking that I wanted the full story. No editing, no sugarcoating. Here's what she told me. About 2 months earlier, she went on a girls' night out. They met this new guy, some good-looking, flashy dude. For a few weeks, he was the new thing in the group. Everyone single was hooking up with him. Eventually, he set his sights on Fran, started dancing with her, flirting. Now, for context, we had a deal. On dance nights, no guys, just her and the girls. She broke that rule. Didn't sleep with him, but danced, flirted, accepted his attention. That's also around the time I noticed her pulling away. Her friends kept talking about this guy and their fun. Fran admitted she started thinking about him, fantasizing. He kept trying to get her to go out. She says she never did, but they talked. And at some point, the idea of opening the relationship came up. She and her friends actually discussed how to pitch it to me. They figured because I had experimented with swinging and threesomes in my early 20s, I'd be cool with it. But that stuff was a decade ago, and always with full trust and agreement. Anyway, that's what led to the Friday night proposal. She swore up and down she never hooked up with the guy, never saw him alone, never even gave him her number. But she admitted she entertained the idea and was fully ready to move forward with it. I told her I didn't break up with her just because she asked. I ended it because she already had a guy in mind. That's not how committed relationships work. If it had been a genuine conversation, we might have figured something out, or at least had a real discussion. We talked for about an hour. She apologized a bunch. I told her I couldn't go back. Too much broken trust. But we agreed we wouldn't try to divide up our mutual friends. No drama, just move on, be civil. At the end, I walked her to her car. She broke down crying. I hugged her. We stood there a while. Then she left. I drove straight out to the mountains with my camping gear and stayed offline all weekend. Just needed to clear my head. Update 2, a month later. Got a ton of messages asking what happened. Truth is, I spent the next month going in circles. Some days I missed her. Other days I was pissed. Couldn't decide how I really felt. Finally, I sat down with my best friend Clara and her husband Pete. They laid it out for me straight. Said I'd never trust Fran again. That even if she didn't cheat, I'd always wonder. They also said something that hit hard, that I was holding on because I didn't want to be alone. They were right. So the next weekend, I met with Fran one last time. We talked at a park. I told her clearly and calmly that we were done for good, that we wanted different things in life, and that it was better to walk away with no resentment. She didn't take it well, got upset, asked if I was sure. I told her I was. We said goodbye. I haven't heard from her since. We still run into each other now and then with friends, but it's polite, distant. I'm doing all right now. Got back into old hobbies, reconnected with people, cleaned up my apartment, literally and mentally. Looking back, I don't think I overreacted. She wanted something I couldn't give. She just didn't expect me to walk away. But I did, and I'm not going back.